President Zelensky has previously ruled out handing over any territory to Russia, but with President Trump reported to be backing Vladimir Putin's demands as a condition of ending the war, what will Zelensky's strategy be for his Oval Office meeting tomorrow? Let's speak to Kateryna Malofieieva, a journalist in Kyiv. Good morning, Kateryna.
Good morning.
It's worth just considering what we know about the Alaska summit and how that sets up the Oval Office meeting tomorrow. And shall we start, first of all, with the American president announcing that he's going to be pursuing a peace settlement instead of a ceasefire in Ukraine. He thinks a ceasefire deal would be too fragile. And to be fair to Trump, precedent would suggest that ceasefires in the conflict have not ever held Russia at bay. Is the pursuit of an all-out peace agreement the right approach?
It's good, but it's a good approach. It's a right approach, but we need to understand what are the conditions of this peace deal, right? So we've been talking about the establishment of peace since the inauguration, right? Since Trump's inauguration. So it's been more than 6 months so far. And I guess even the listeners and the audience, they understand it. So we discussed back and forth that the position of Ukrainian president is adamant because he doesn't want to swap the territories. He doesn't want to concede the territories, which is our official position, and this is what he represents as overall Ukrainian position of the Ukrainian population. Secondly, talking about the establishment of peace, right? So European leaders are backing up Zelensky as well. So and there should not be any shouldn't be any peace deal, right, without the presence of Zelensky, without the presence of the Ukrainian president and the European leaders too. So we understand that the aspirations of American presidents are positive, right? But whether it will be possible to do, because, you know, it's been dragging on for more than 6 months, these discussions, these calls with Putin and Zelensky back and forth. So unless there will be maybe Trump will be, angry and he will at some point just decide to pressure. But also, how can you pressure the leader of the sovereign country? How can you? What will be the caveat that you can use? Because we've already signed the mineral deal, right? We've already agreed on certain steps to be friends with the US, right? So we've already agreed. So how can you pressure the president?
Well, the other part of this, Kateryna, is that the US may now be more willing to offer security guarantees to Ukraine in the event of a peace deal, which is a definite shift of position from Trump.
What do you mean by the security guarantees?
Well,
do we have
to be honest, I don't know. But the reporting this morning suggests that Trump is heading in that direction, that he would join European leaders in helping to back up any sort of peace agreement.
This is, but again, on what conditions would we have to give the Donbass? Would we have to give or freeze the territory? It's so complicated process, so it's very hard to predict. So, basically.
One of the suggestions is that it would be similar to the kind of NATO Article 5 style guarantee, i.e. that if there was to be another invasion or escalation of aggression, that actually there would be support offered by the United States and others. So on paper, Ukraine would be a kind of neutral country and not be a full NATO member, but it would get some of the protections that are afforded to countries that are within NATO.
It would be a miracle, but I don't believe in that. It would be a miracle because we've already had the documents, Budapest memorandum, right? We've already had it, and we see what happened, right? So, if Trump will do that, it will be absolutely unprecedented thing. But we already seen another unprecedented thing, that he shook hands with a criminal on the red carpet. So I mean, I don't have illusions about this idea of giving Ukraine the guarantees.
Thank you, Kateryna. Good to speak to you this morning. Appreciate you joining us as well. Thanks. That is Kateryna Malofieieva, who is a journalist in Kyiv. And so as we wake up this morning and try to process where we're getting to before President Zelensky heads to the Oval Office tomorrow, I think there are three things that are emerging from the sort of this interim between the Alaska summit and Zelensky's visit to Washington. There is moves towards a peace agreement rather than any sort of ceasefire. There is the question of land and which territories Putin seems likely at this. It feels like there's a tone shift on this, that Putin is going to be able to keep certain areas, certain territories.
Well, certainly in Trump's mind.
Exactly. And the third part of it are these security guarantees. Who is offering them and what do they look like? Is it something like NATO membership without officially being a NATO member for Ukraine? Those are three things we'll continue to explore.
Yeah, let's look at the front page of this morning's papers. As you would expect, the Sunday Times is covering this. Exactly what Callum's just saying there, that Giorgia Meloni is the Italian Prime Minister, of course, has talked about this idea that is being floated by Donald Trump of an arrangement, quotes, inspired by Article 5 of the NATO agreement, which would essentially give Ukraine the security guarantees of being a NATO member without actually being a NATO member. I mean, the question that comes from that, of course, is that written down? Will Donald Trump change his mind? The idea being that if Putin were to invade again, should there be a peace agreement, then all of the other nations would step in. I can understand Kateryna Malofeieva's concerns about that because we haven't got the detail on that yet. But what it does increasingly look like is that President Zelensky is going to Washington tomorrow for this meeting with Trump, and he is going to be presented effectively. Trump, we understand, has already spoken to Zelensky about this after the meeting with Putin, saying that the Russian leader is offering to freeze the front lines in two provinces, Kherson and Zaporizhia, if Ukrainian troops withdraw from the heavily fortified area in Donbass. And there's a really interesting piece in the Sunday Times today. There's so many interesting pieces on this, which talks about the dangers of Ukraine doing that, because it is so fortified. There's sort of teeth defences and all manner of things that if that were to go, there's a real concern that if Putin decided to re-invade, it would be a lot easier to get up to Kyiv. And you remember those real worries in the opening days of the war. Obviously, as we expect, as we heard from Kateryna there, Ukrainians reacting with dismay. Interestingly, in the US as well, senior Republicans are urging President Trump to impose sanctions on Russia if Putin refuses to turn up for a three-way summit with Zelensky. So that could be an interesting dynamic in all of this as well.
Sure. Goodness me. The Sunday Telegraph front page, Trump supports Putin's land grab. So the detail on this appears to be emerging, actually, since the Alaska summit. So Putin wants full control of Donetsk, the mineral-rich eastern oblast, including parts that are currently held by Ukraine, within the wider Donbass region. In return, Putin saying he would freeze the front line and promise, not to take any more territory. That's what he relayed in his meeting in Alaska, and so Trump is it sounds like he's given at least some of that messaging to the Europeans, including Zelensky, and that's what he'll be saying to the Ukrainian president tomorrow. I think when it comes to the land part of this, that seems to be the question mark now. And what an awful position for Zelensky to be in. How does he go about handing over these territories? What about the people who are in them? Are they then forced under the authoritarian regime that is Vladimir Putin's? Is that how that works, or is there a chance for them to move elsewhere?
I was going to say, or forced from their homes and have to live elsewhere.
And is that an opportunity that they want to take? You know, none of this seems satisfactory. But fundamentally, is this the price of war? History teaches us that you conquer, you keep the land. That's what war is all about, fundamentally. Are we just waking up to the inevitability that Putin is winning in some of these parts, and so he will end up keeping some of these parts of Ukraine?